Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Speaking Show. I'm Jake.
And I am Ella. Really glad you are here with us today.
Ella, I was on an English learning forum last night and I came across a post I have not been able to stop thinking about.
What did it say?
Someone wrote, I have been studying English for 3 years. I passed my B1 exam, I listen to podcasts, I watch shows in English, I try to speak whenever I can, but for the last 6 months, I feel like I have been standing completely still. My colleagues who started after me are already more confident. I'm starting to think I'm just not a language person. Should I accept that and stop wasting my time?
Should I accept that and stop wasting my time? That line, I just sat there.
Because it is so honest and so painful and so completely wrong about itself.
3 years of real effort, a past exam, consistent practice, and that person genuinely believes they are failing?
I have felt a version of that, not about English, but that specific feeling of working hard and wondering if you are just not capable of this.
I have too. It is one of the loneliest feelings in the world because from the inside, you cannot see what's actually happening.
There were 40 replies under that post. Most of them said, keep going, don't give up.
Which is kind, but on a bad English day, keep going is not enough. You need to understand why.
And nobody in that thread explained why.
So that is what we are going to do today. If you have ever felt what that person felt, this episode is for you.
So 3 years of study, 6 months of feeling stuck, colleagues who seem more confident. The conclusion? Maybe I am just not a language person.
Every single part of that has an explanation, and none of the explanations are you are not capable.
Start with the 6 months of feeling stuck. There is a stage every language learner hits without exception, around B1 to B2. It feels exactly like what that person described, like you have stopped moving.
At the beginning, progress is fast. Every new word is a gain. You can feel yourself improving. But at B1, the easy gaps are filled. What remains is harder, slower, deeper. Each new word takes more effort for less visible return.
So the progress does not stop, it just goes underground. The beginner phase is building walls. You can see them going up every day. The intermediate phase is laying foundations. You dig for weeks and nothing appears above ground.
But without the foundation, the next floor cannot be built. The plateau is not a wall, it is a floor.
I know this feeling from a different experience. A few years ago, I was learning a new professional skill. Weeks of effort. Nothing seemed to land. I genuinely thought, maybe I am just not able to do this.
What happened?
A colleague asked me to explain something from that skill, and I did it, clearly, naturally, without stopping to think. He said, "You really know this well." And I sat there confused, because from the inside, I had felt like I was getting nowhere. The knowledge had been building the whole time. I just couldn't see it from the inside.
The progress was happening while you were busy feeling stuck.
Exactly that. And that's what's happening to every learner who feels stuck right now.
Now, the colleagues who seem more confident, this one matters.
Confidence and proficiency are not the same thing. Some learners appear confident because they're comfortable with imperfection. They speak before they're ready. They make mistakes and keep going. That's not the same as being more advanced. It's a different relationship with embarrassment.
And embarrassment, I know this personally.
Tell them.
Early in my career, I had to present in a language I was still developing. I had prepared, I knew my content. When the moment came, the words would not arrive in the right order. I could hear how small I sounded compared to how I felt on the inside.
That gap between who you are and how you sound.
I went home that evening and genuinely considered stopping. I almost did.
What kept you going?
Honestly, I didn't have a good reason. I just came back the next day, not because I felt confident, because I refused to let one terrible presentation be the last word.
And now?
The person who stood in that room, she doesn't exist anymore. She was replaced by someone who came out the other side. It took time. That's all it took.
Time and coming back.
And to the person thinking they're too old, the adult brain forms new connections throughout life. Adults focus better, retain meaning better, understand how language works. The learning is different from a child's, not worse, different.
Not a sign of failure, a sign that you're on the journey.
And here's what might surprise you. You're probably already further along than you think.
The progress is there. You have just not been counting it.
Not as encouragement. Literally, there are specific things that have changed in your English that you have not recognized as progress because nobody told you to look for them.
Think about a conversation in English from 6 months ago. How hard did you have to concentrate? Now think about a similar conversation today.
For most learners, it is easier now. Not easy, easier. That reduction in effort is real, measurable progress. Your brain is processing English more automatically than before.
But because you are still not where you want to be, it does not feel like progress. You are measuring against fluency, not against where you started.
When you measure against fluency, you are always far away. When you measure against 6 months ago, you have almost always moved.
Here's another one. Do you ever catch your own mistakes now? You say something and immediately, before anyone corrects you, you hear it.
A year ago, that mistake would have gone completely unnoticed. Now, your brain flags it. Most learners think, I am making more mistakes than before.
But that is not what is happening. Your internal quality filter has developed. You can hear the gap between what you said and what you meant. That awareness is a significant stage of language development.
It feels like getting worse. It is getting better.
Do you ever have a thought and the English word arrives without going through your own language first?
That is one of the most significant things that can happen in language learning. Your brain is starting to operate in English, not just access it.
It means the language is becoming yours.
And this one, Jake, this one is yours.
Think about something you wrote in English a year ago, a message, an email, a comment. If you found it today, how would you feel?
Honestly.
Most learners would feel embarrassed. Simpler vocabulary, shorter sentences, the confidence not quite there yet. And most people think, my English was bad.
But that is the wrong interpretation entirely. The reason you can see the limitations of that earlier English is because you've improved enough to see them. You have outgrown it.
The embarrassment is not evidence that you were failing, it's evidence that you have grown.
The cringe is the proof.
Write that down.
Now, some specific moments. Firsts, most people experience them and move on without registering what they mean.
The first conversation without asking anyone to repeat.
The first film you watched and realized halfway through you hadn't looked at the subtitles.
The first professional email you sent without checking every sentence.
The first joke in English that landed.
The first time you caught yourself dreaming in English.
Every single one of those is a real milestone.
Did you celebrate any of them?
Most learners did not, because in the moment, they were already thinking about the next thing they couldn't do yet.
But those moments happened. They are yours. Nobody can take them back.
You are further along than you think, much further. And that matters, because what you are building is real and it's worth finishing.
So let us talk about what you are actually building, because in the middle of the hard part, it is easy to lose sight of why you started.
Before we say anything, think about why you actually started. Not what sounded like a good reason, what you actually wanted.
Maybe it was a specific job, a meeting you wanted to participate in fully, not just sit through.
Maybe it was a place, a person, a film you wanted to watch without subtitles and actually understand the humor.
Maybe it was just the ability to walk into a room where people are speaking English and feel present, not invisible.
That reason is still real. It is waiting for you on the other side of this plateau.
The professional dimension of this, think about the last time you had a genuinely good idea in a meeting but were not confident enough to say it in English.
That moment of having something to say and staying silent, that's the cost of not continuing. Right now, in meetings that are already happening.
People with strong English earn more, advance further, report higher confidence at work, not because English makes them smarter, because it removes a barrier that was limiting them.
The barrier does not disappear all at once. The meeting that felt impossible becomes uncomfortable. The uncomfortable becomes manageable. The manageable becomes natural.
And one day you say exactly what you wanted to say, without hesitation, and nobody in that room knows how long it took to get there.
That moment is coming. It is not far.
Beyond work, traveling with that low-level anxiety of not being understood, watching something in its original language and actually getting the humor, speaking to someone from anywhere in the world and genuinely connecting.
And to the viewers who are parents, showing your children that learning is something you do, not something that stops when you're young, that's enormous.
The only comparison that is useful is with yourself. 6 months ago, a year ago, not your colleague, not a native speaker, not someone on the internet.
Your past self. That comparison will almost always show you something real.
And about the cost of stopping, every hour already invested, every embarrassing mistake survived, every difficult conversation pushed through, that investment has already produced something.
We showed you what it produced. The smaller hesitation, the self-correction, the English thought that arrived without translation, the cringe at your earlier writing.
That is real. That is yours. And if you stop now, it stops compounding.
Your reason is still real. The progress is already there. The only question is, what do you do tomorrow?
One thing, not a plan, not a system, one thing.
Find something you wrote or said in English 6 months ago. A message, an email, a voice note, anything.
Read it, listen to it, see it.
Progress measured against fluency is always invisible. You are always far away when you are measuring forward, but progress measured against where you started is almost always visible, almost always more than you expected.
I came across an early recording recently. I sat and listened, and I felt something I had not expected.
What?
Quietly, genuinely proud. I could hear the distance. I had been so focused on where I still wanted to go that I had completely forgotten how far I had already come. Looking back gave me something back I did not know I had lost.
I reread professional messages from a few years ago. The grammar was correct, the vocabulary was limited, and the confidence, you can feel the absence of it. The sentences were careful, cautious. I wanted to reach back and tell her, keep going. You have no idea what is waiting for you.
That is what we are telling you right now.
Keep going. You have no idea what is waiting for you.
Do this today. Find one thing. Look back.
And the most important practical thing, 15 minutes a day. Every day. Not 3 hours on weekends. 15 minutes every single day.
Consistency beats intensity every time. Language is built through showing up, not through occasional effort. Every adult has 15 minutes.
On the days when even that feels like too much, do 5. Just keep the thread alive.
And on the bad English days, when words disappear, when a conversation goes badly, those days are normal. Every learner has them.
The only thing that matters on a bad English day is what you do the next day.
Come back. That is the whole strategy.
And we genuinely believe you are the person who comes back. That is why we made this episode.
Before we go, think of one thing you can do in English today that you could not do a year ago. It does not have to be impressive. It just has to be real.
Maybe you follow conversations that used to confuse you. Maybe you write emails without checking every sentence. Maybe you feel a little less afraid than you did 12 months ago.
That counts. Write it in the comments. One thing. Yours.
Mine, a year ago, I rehearsed everything before speaking in English. Now I just speak. I still make mistakes, but I stopped rehearsing. That was a long time coming.
Mine, I watched a film last month and only realized at the end that I had not thought about the language once. I was just there. That had never happened before.
Tell us yours. We read every single comment.
And if you're still not sure you can do this, that's okay. You do not have to be sure. You just have to come back tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow. That's enough. It has always been enough.
If this episode helped, please subscribe. New episodes every week. Real English for real life.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for still going. It matters more than you know.
Take care, everyone. See you in the next one.